Welcome to your first NVDA app module session 2. Scripts, input, and output. I'm Joseph Lee, one of the contributors to NVDA Screen Reader project. And I'd like to welcome you all to the second part of your first NVDA app module session. Don't worry if you hear e-speak all around because speakers that are right here. But all right, so far in the app modules course, we talked about what an app module is. We talked about what app modules are not. We talked about collaborating with app developers and making their apps successful. And we also talked about how to write a bare minimum app module, 4 lines of code. And after writing 4 lines of code, you press Control NVDA F1. Remember from last session that Control NVDA F1 is a command, not documented in the user guide at this point, that tells you the name of the executable name of the app that you're using, and the app module that is loaded, if any. Now, sure, an instance where you can actually have what seem to be unrelated app modules, but they're really related in some case. So, to give a summary of the last session, it was mentioned that you don't write an app module unless if the app developers are unwilling to do something, or if the app developers writes accessibility enhancements to a point where it's a matter of adapting to different screen readers. And you may recall last time, for those who were on the app module session the other day, that you would talk to app developers. Ideally, talk to app developers, telling them how to reproduce a problem and how they can help us through at least contacting NVAccess or letting them follow up with you on what needs to be done about accessibility and whatnot. So that was last time. This time, this session is coding, so we'll actually get started with writing Python code. And this session is all about scripts, input, and output, although for shorthanded scripts. So we'll talk about how to write your first ever app module command. You'll get a chance to meet UI.message, and you also get a chance to play with tones, which is actually fun. If we actually have you actually have a guy who actually worked on bringing an interesting idea to life that is allowing you to make it easier for you to write app modules in the future via tones. And we'll meet this guy later in the session, but he's here with us. So you may recall that last time I said app modules are more than scripts, and they are indeed more than scripts. And we'll get started with what scripts are, but before that, we wanted to discuss some things about classes, methods, functions, and whatnot. So, before we start coding it, I hope for those of you who were last time, I hope you have your app of your choosing open with you, at least open in front of you. In my case, I will return to Notepad. Before we talk about scripts, it is important to talk about the functions and methods. A function is a collection of code and sometimes data that you can use to perform a task. Sometimes it's called a subroutine, sometimes called a routine, sometimes called a black box at one point or another. It's a function does whatever it does to accomplish whatever that you want to do. Like, for example, if you tell Python to print, in Python 2 at least, you would type print space, quote, whatever that you want to print, end quote. But in Python 3, it's a function now. So it's print let parent, quote, whatever, quote, right parent. So whatever it does, when it runs, print will print out whatever that you said you wanted printed to the screen, or in some cases called a console. Similarly, if if in the NVDA world, a useful function that you want to get accustomed to now is a function called message, part of UI module, the UI.message. This function, whenever it's given a string, will speak and braille the string for you. The mechanics of this, we'll talk about this later, but basically this function calls a specific function, another function in speech module that will speak whatever that you wanted to say, and if the braille display is connected, it will call a function in the braille module that will braille out whatever that you wanted to say. So that is a function. It's a black box that does whatever it does. Don't know how it works, but it does whatever that you wanted to ask. What that you wanted to do. There's specific different kinds of functions, but for now, when it comes to app modules, we will deal with functions. A specific variant of a function called a method. A method is a function defined as part of what's called a class. A class is a collection of code and data that represents something, like an object or file or people or whatnot. As far as computers are concerned, it's a container or collection of code and data that represents something, and the class is just the text definition of this. And the entity that comes to life when the computer program runs is called an object. So the object is a runtime. The object is a class coming to life. In Python, you would use the term self, or SELF, to tell Python that you are working with a class, or you're working with an object, or technically it's called an instance of an object. For example, if you have a class called people, and while your program is running, you want to add some details about people. As your computer program runs, you would create an instance of a class called people, name it whatever, and give it some details. And then you would say things like, this employee is people. In this case, it is employee equals people. And then you would say employee dot whatever. Now, in the actual definition of this in text, it will say self dot. So it's telling you what it's working with. So that's a distinguishing feature between functions and methods. As far as CPUs are concerned, it's just a call to a function. That's it. And app modules, as classes / objects, they use this term a lot, methods, because effectively, when you're working with app modules that has to do some routines, you're effectively defining methods. A method is a function inside a class that allows you to do something inside that class. Let me give an example. Suppose in Notepad, if I have open Notepad class at the moment. Now, I have a Notepad app module open with me, and what I'm going to do is I am going to write a function, or at least give you how a function is written. And I'll try my best, as someone suggested before the course began, before this session began, I will try my best to paste what I'm typing into text chat also. Let me define two functions.
Import lang, class app lang, import app lang.
In Python, you would define a function using the term def, D-E-F, name of the function, and the parentheses. And if you want your function to take your input into account, or your advice into account, if I say, you give it what's called arguments, or sometimes called parameters. It's a variables that function will take that will affect the behavior of it. Sometimes if you want function to take no arguments, you just put left parent, right parent. But let me type in what I'm saying.
A-F-E-D. Symbol level no, symbol level all.
Now, let me type in.
Speak typed character on. Speak typed character.
Let me actually.
Word on. Def.
DEF space. Def. My name is. Let parentheses. Name.
Name.
And for this one, let me call it UI
UI
dot message let
Message.
parent. My name is
is
let brace name
N
and right
N.
brace. Now I will explain what I just wrote in a second.
format name
Okay, got this.
tab UI tab left tab import app module handler lang.
What I wrote is this.
Def my name is left paren name right paren colon. Tab UI dot message left paren quote my name is left brace n right brace quote dot format left paren n equals name right paren.
This is called string interpolation.
Def my name is left paren d. Def my name team top 5 slider kit side tab dial type a message. Def my name is start tab UI dot met team top 5.
Remember that you have to put a tab because it's indentation based or space, whatever this one is called. Now, UI that message my name is, and for this,
Def my name is left paren name right paren colon.
For this one,
UI
it-
message left paren quote my name is left brace and right brace quote dot for.
now what it does, what the function does, which we'll talk about this in a second when we talk about scripts. It takes in a string called name, and it does this. It'll say my name is, and it'll do it via speech and braille. And I said UI that message. If you want to take advantage of a function that's defined somewhere, you have to actually import it like this.
Import app module handler lang.
Import
Import.
UI. Enter.
UI. Import app module import UI. Team lang. Star C.
Import UI. Now what I'm doing is I'm trying to type it into text chat as well. So
Import UI.
now this is import UI.
Def my name tab UI def my name D. Lang.
Oops.
Def my name is left paren name right paren colon. Tab UI dot message left paren quote my name is left brace and right brace quote dot format left paren n equals name right paren lang. Class app module lang tab U lang. Class app module let tab pass. Lang S B. Tab.
And let me actually define the method here
Lang.
called def
Def.
say name left
name.
parent self
L.
comma name right
Name.
parent colon. What I wrote is this. What I'm doing is I am defining a method inside my app module that will
Tab def say name left paren self comma name right paren copy. Def say name. Team. Start tab def say name left tab.
what this method will do is it will do my name is left
My name
parent name right
Name.
parent.
Tab. Left tab lang. Class app module lang. Tab. My name is left paren name right paren. My name is left. Team. Star C tab. My name is left paren name right paren.
Now, what I define is a method. A method, as I mentioned, is a method that takes an object. In this case, it's called self, and it can take additional parameters. And a script is just a specialized method. Nothing else, with some specialized features on top of this.
Hey Joseph, you forgot def on your method?
Tab def say name left tab def say name left.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe it just didn't get put into the chat.
Tab def say name tab. D. Def say name. Team.
So, Dev, thank you, Derek. This is the
Uh-huh.
person that I wanted to introduce, who was writing Indentone and now it's integrated into NVDA Core. Now,
Yep.
so
Tab. My name is left paren name right lang.
what I wrote is I have defined a method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run this app module,
Lang.
or at least run Notepad so that it can load this app module.
Notepad comma desktop app to note untitled dash notepad edit multi-line lang.
Now, remember, I have open Notepad here. Let me restart NVDA.
Untitled continue temporarily disable all triggers checkbox check untitled dash note.
Because I'm using different synthesizer for sale. That's right. Now, this is Notepad, and if you recall from last time, you can press Ctrl NVDA F1 to hear.
Currently running application is notepad.exe and currently loaded module is notepad.
Now, let me open Python console, Ctrl NVDA Z,
NVDA Python console breaker
and
edit
if
lang.
I recall right, I wrote a method called say name. Is it there? Let me type focus.appmodule
App module
dot say.
say name
Yes, it did. So
focus not app module dot say name
say name, and then I'll type in the parent. My name is this, and
breaker.
although you may not have heard this, but NVDA said this.
IO dash input speak in left bracket tip breaker tip IO not accessible deep not deep speak IO input IO speak in left bracket tip my name IO dash speak in left bracket tip my name is Joseph tip right bracket.
Anyway, so my name is Joseph. That's what it did.
NVDA Python cons untitled dash notes edit.
That's one way of using methods, but this isn't. Well, this provides a foundation to what we're about to do now. Basically, what happened is, I typed focus.app module app. What I typed is focus. And then
app module. Focus.app module.
Dot say name.
Say name. Joseph.
So what I wrote is I wrote the name of the depth and the name of the function that we wrote, and this function calls my name is function that's defined outside. So that is one way of using manipulative functions and whatnot. There are a lot of more tricks there, but at least this is a stepping stone to getting into our actual first script. Now, before I introduce scripts, are there any questions?
This focus is a member function of the app module?
Yes, it is.
Joseph, Pranav here. I have a question. When you updated the Notepad module, did you just save it to get it to, to have it refreshed because you just wrote a method, or did you copy files or do something else?
So what I did was when I saved Notepad app module, I pressed Control S from Notepad++, and then this was with Notepad closed. The changes to app modules will not take effect until you reopen the app in question. One way is work on the app module while the app is closed. Another method is you work on an app, you write an app module for it, you save the app module and restart NVDA. And provided that there's no syntax errors and whatnot, like what you heard last time, you will be able to use the new functionality that you have defined in your app module straight away. And as someone asked, yes, it is a member function. Thank you for the clarification. Member function is another term for method.
Thanks. Okay.
Thing you put in the chat the focus.app module.say name. Where should this come?
Now, the same name is a method of the Notepad app module that I wrote. So it's not there, although I will show you a way to obtain, all the possible attributes or members of the app module shortly.
Okay, but how is it invoked?
Python console. Control NVDA Z. And then I typed in the one that I wrote on the text chat. Focus.app module.say name. And that's just one way of using Python console, Control NVDA Z, so that you can test out if the app module works as advertised, at least. We will come back to more tricks inside the Python console in the next session when we talk about objects and object hierarchy. Now, we're back to the script here, and now at least get a chance to hear how methods and functions are defined, and you saw how modules are. Don't worry about that, folks. Modules are imported and used. Now, a script is in fact a method of an app module, or for some of you who are writing global plugins, it's an attribute of a global plugin with some special syntax. Not technically special syntax, but as NVDA in the NVDA world, there's special words that you would type before and after, and it takes in only 2 parameters. What I'm going to do is I'm going to define an actual script. A script is part of input. A script is a method that gets called when you press a key on the keyboard when you perform some actions on a braille display, when you do touch gestures and whatnot. And in case of one person who's here with us right now, Pranav Lal, the add-on developer for Dictation Bridge, it'll be gestures that'll be called when you execute speech commands, as in dictating it. So the script is defined thus. You will type in the word script underscore DEF script
DEF space SCRIPT line.
And then I would type in script underscore say my name, left parent, self, comma, gesture.
Blank code right paren. Tab def script line say my name left paren self comma gesture right tab blank.
Ideally, you would type in something else, but
blank. Tab def script and slide tab dialog channel messages edit chat tab dialog channel messages edit type a message to the channel edit blank.
Sorry for the duplicates here, but this is how you've defined it. So it's a name of the method prepended. Is it prepended by the word script underscore. So for example, if you have a method called get status bar, for example, in this case you say status bar in some cases, you can transform that into a script by prepending it with the word script underscore. So you can become script underscore say status bar. It takes in only two parameters: self, the app module that you're working with, and gesture. It could be touch gesture, it could be a keyboard command, it could be braille display keys, and whatever. And gestures is the gesture. It has its own methods and properties, like what the name is, or the name of what the name of the key was, and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to in the function body, I'm going to put self.say name, let's turn Joseph underscore. Now that's one portion of scripts. More things that you have to do. The other one that you have to do is to make your script work is tell NVDA which commands you want to assign to the script. For that, you need to remember that the script priority is global plugins first, followed by app modules, object that you're working with, and then global plugins. No, not global commands. So if you have the same command for the app module that's defined in a global plugin elsewhere, you notice that the app command that you've assigned for the app module will not work because global plugin takes precedence. And you don't want to assign any command that's defined in the global commands like NVDA F12 and whatnot. Because if you do that, people will not be able to use native NVDA commands. The app modules, and in fact for global plugins and whatnot, and NVDA overlay objects, we'll talk about this later. There's a private map, or what they call dictionary, that actually houses commands that you would press or invoke to run specific scripts. And this is defined thus: underscore gestures, gestures equals, and in Python dictionary is a key value pair, braces, left brace,
tab line gestures equals left brace, tab,
where the key is for gestures, the key is a command gesture, and the value is a function.
blank.
And Python is so powerful in function tools in that if you give it the name of the function in string, Python can convert that and give you the actual function object or function for that has that string label. For example, for say my name, that could easily be turned into a function using call or whatever. So
blank.
for this one, let me type in
NVDA
say
Say my name. Tab, 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 right trace.
What I wrote is this. A gesture is composed of several components. The gesture itself, the command itself, preceded by the input identifier. There are 4 that's defined in NVDA. There's KB : for keyboard. There's BR : Braille display keys. There's BK : for Braille key input. And TS : for touchscreens. So the complete key value pair for this gesture is
Tab, tab, quote, KB : control plus NVDA plus a quote, quote, say my name, quote, comma. Tab, line, tab. Line. Team top, blank.
So I'm typing into the text.
Start, tab, tab, quote, KB : team. Star C, tab, right brace, quote, team top.
And right brace. It's left brace, key, value, right brace. Or one or more. This is the standard syntax for dictionaries in Python. You would use 2 underscore gestures, but there's a caveat here. Python will mangle this somehow. Mangling means transforming the name of it so it can be obscured from outside. So you won't find, say, focus at app module dot underscore gestures. You cannot use that because Python will throw errors. Python will say, you cannot use that. It's called something else when you use it. Now, then save it.
Team top, untitled tab.
And now restart NVDA.
Exit list. Untitled dash notepad, edit multi.
So you will put plus signs to denote what commands that you would use. So the KB : control plus NVDA plus A. Now if I press this command, you'll hear this.
My name is Joseph.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a start of your first ever app module script. And you'll notice that I press Control NVDA A.
My name is Joseph.
But if I press it from Notepad++, for example,
C: tab. Import app module handler, import UIDF my.
nothing. Or rather, it has done Control A, selected everything. If I go back to Notepad, not the ++, but the decremented Notepad. So
Untitled.
Control NVDA A says,
My name is Joseph.
but Notepad++ says
C.
nothing. Select everything. And that is why app modules are not global. They're limited in scope to what it can do. So it can do things from the app module. As long as you're focused in the app, you will be able to execute whatever script that you give it. And you can do whatever that you want. So while we're taking a short... while this sinks in... as a small form of exercise, I'd like to ask you now to open the app of your choosing, the app that you're working the app module for. Define a script that will announce your name via UI.message.
Where should the gestures dictionary come?
What about dictionaries?
So the gestures dictionary, where should that come? Is that in the app?
In the app module, yes.
So you have to indent into the class. Oh, we have 2 people talking. Yeah, you have to indent one level so that it's part of inside of the class, and then you'll put you'll define the dictionary inside of there. So it'll be outside of the method, but inside the class.
Team top 5 classic.
So I'm sure some of you may have experienced initial difficulties when writing scripts, especially when it comes to defining methods. Don't worry about that too much now until next session when we actually get into objects. But effectively, a script is a specialized method of app modules, or member functions of app modules. Special wording of the name of the function or the method. It takes in self, it takes in gesture. That's all. I've seen cases where people have provided extra arguments to gestures, and it is recommended extra arguments to scripts, and you don't want to do that.
D, NVDA, source row 1, column D, NVDA code, NVDA D, C, import app module handler, import UI.
Now, the next thing I'll be talking about is output and modules that you'll be importing when you actually write scripts. For now, because we're talking about only speech and braille output, we only imported app module handler and UI.
Speak typed words on. Sitting.
And so far, for our exercise, it is adequate. But there are times when you will be importing additional modules. If you ever wanted to mess around with tones or work with tones, I would say, you would do
Blank. Import.
this.
Blank. Import. Blank. Import. Import tones.
Import tones.
Team top 5. NVDA chat left. Correct side. Sub tab dialog. Channel mess. Type a mess.
Import tones. That's the module that defines tones.beep,
Tone. Beep.
hertz, duration. So beep, tones.beep, hertz, duration. Let me give you an example of this.
NVDA Python console. Breaker.
Again, I'm back at Python console, NVDA, control NVDA. Let me import tones.
Tones. Breaker.
Let me play a low A, and then play a
New notification window. New notification from Twitter comment. Mentioned by Derek Reamer comment. Article helping at Dusty leads the app module session dot. Gosh dot. I remember writing my first script dot. Twishort.com/.
Anyway, so that's a toast. I pressed Windows V for this. Thanks,
Blank.
Derek. Now, let me type in tones.beep. Let me play a standard console pitch A for about half a second. 440 hertz. 500 milliseconds.
500.
And this is what you will hear.
Tones.beep left paren 440 comment. 500 right paren. Breaker.
Let me actually turn off speech.
Speech mode off.
Let's try this again.
Speech mode talk.
Because I'm using no speech beeps add-on. No beep speech mode add-on. That's right. So that is how you would play tones. Be careful. Don't play tones too much. And there's an issue where if you play 2 or more tones simultaneously, it will not work properly. Whichever is longer will be heard last.
Team top 5 class. Star C colon star import tones.
Now that's tones. For certain apps, you will need to import this.
Import API. Blank.
Import API. I don't know how it got this name, but it holds various functions like get focus object, get foreground, get navigator, among many other things. We won't get to use API until later.
Import API.
Until next session when we have options.
Hey, Joseph, you might want to, when you do that, post a link to the developer docs that I host,
Yes.
so that people can browse them if they wish.
Yes. Thank you very much. Derek Reamer suggests that I put a link to the developer documentation that Derek hosts, and I will do that at the end of this.
Whenever whenever we're getting to a point where that would be useful.
Yes. Starting next session, we will talk about objects, but at the end of this session, I will provide the URL, the address to the API docs that Derek hosts on his website, graciously hosted by Derek Reamer for use by others when it comes to exploring objects and other API for NVDA world. So that API, that's the module that you would import when you want to work with objects, clipboards, status bars, among other things.
Blank. Channel a minute dot. Less Derek Reamer breaker article LB back in. A minute type a minute.
So that's a module. There are other things that you can use. We won't get into it until later sessions, like
import win user.
Team
talk type a message channel messages edit type a
import lowercase WIN and uppercase U and then lowercase SER.
Import win user.
Import win user. So this is a wrapper for user32.dll. It's a library that's provided by Windows that allows apps to manipulate Windows, send and receive messages among themselves and whatnot. That is used if you want to take advantage of Windows API. At other times, you will load import GUI. GUI, graphical user interface. In the NVDA world, it will be dialogues, progress bar dialogues, buttons, mainframe, and whatnot.
Lang.
The companion import in most cases is
Import. Import WX. T. Import.
import WX. We are using WX widgets, specifically WX Python for GUI related and other stuff.
Lang.
And for the purpose of this session,
Speech. Import speech. Import.
import speech and
Speech. Import rail. Import speech. Lang. Import lang. Import rail.
import Braille. Speech has functions that have to do with NVIDIA speaking things, and Braille includes support routines when you're working with a Braille display. So you don't have to import this if all you're going to do is send output to Braille displays and speech. For that one, you can just do
Import UI.
import UI, because it has UI.message as you saw earlier. That just speaks and Brailles, whatever that you want. So those are some of the common modules that you will import, unless of course you are working with objects, which in this case we will be importing specific NVIDIA objects and support APIs. We won't get into that until next time. So how does NVDA know which script is which, and what happens if script is not defined for a command? What happens is, whenever NVIDIA gets a command, it will look up a script that's associated with that command. It'll start with a global plugin, move down to app modules, objects, and then global commands. I have intentionally excluded tree interceptors that's used in complex documents in browse mode, because it's quite complicated to talk about that now, perhaps later. So that's how it will look up scripts. If it cannot find it, however, it will send it to the operating system. Depends on whichever method it is. And this is defined in keyboard handler. And speaking of keyboard handling and whatnot, you can actually tell NVDA to respond differently if you press a key more than once. And for that, you will need to import this.
Import UI. Import lang.
Import.
Lang. Import WX.
Oops.
Import I. Import speech I. Import rails lang. Import script handler. Steam top lang.
Import script handler with the capital H.
RC.
This module has script repeat count that chooses a constant or variable, or it tries to be a constant, where it tells you how many times a user has pressed a particular key or particular command. A good example of that is announce time.
You spelled that wrong. I'm going to send a modified script handler.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much, Dick. So script handler with the capital H. Now, the good example is say time, where NVDA F12 will announce time. If you press it twice or more, it will announce date. Some of you might be wondering, does NVIDIA have a facility for layer commands? Yes and no. Yes, in that you can assign gestures on the fly as the app module is being used. And no, it isn't a native thing. Somebody wrote a handy workaround, and some add-ons or some app modules, some global plugins are using that. And that's provided by an add-on called Toggle and Toggle X, written by Tyler Spivey, the guy behind various add-ons, including remote. There's a specific facility that's at more than about 2 or 3 functions that you need to use in there that allows you to quote emulate end quote layer commands. We won't get in there yet because it's quite advanced here. But then, so that is at least some of the tips on gestures and input and output, and some of the common modules that you'll be importing. We will meet more modules later when we talk about events, when we talk about objects, when we talk about APIs and whatnot. But for now, at least importing app module handler, importing UI will be enough for most cases, unless if you want to get into that. But in reality, you'll be importing more. At least if you're working with objects, you'll be importing various handlers and objects and whatnot. So there will be at least the basics of working with input and output. So continuing on the input side of things, so NVDA will send the gesture to operating system, and so that app can process, so the program can process it by like Control A, for example. And NVDA can also, not NVDA, but in the output side of things, you can do all sorts of things here. You can do speech and braille, like UI the message. You can modify how speech does things using speech whatever message. You can tell braille to update itself, like braille handler the update and whatnot. With all sorts of tricks here. You can spell things. You can put all sorts of things in the tones. You can emulate a way to announce tones one after the other. You can do that using a loop. We won't get into that until later. So for that is the output processing, and it's done through scripts. And the other thing about scripts, you can tell scripts to call another script. So that, for example, you can tell one script that does something. If you find that basically you have two commands that perform the same thing, you can tell the one script to call another script. And let me actually give you an example. Let me open the Goldwave app module where this is actually defined.
This PC window, item add-ons, items, Goldwave, items, add-ons, items, Goldwave.pass, context, d:/NVD, number.
The script that I have interest in is delete.
Selected, tab def script line delete selection left paren self comma gesture right paren colon tab gesture dot send left paren right paren delete unselected
Gesture.
Team talk source blend gesture speed right left D.
Gesture dot send. This is valid on keyboard commands. Where this method from the gesture dot send, this guy will send in the gesture to the OS where the app can process. In this case, it'll be delete key from Goldwave app module.
Decode tab gesture dot send left paren right paren tab number translators colon presented when audio selection is deleted dot tab self dot message left paren line left paren quote deleted quote right paren.
You can write self dot message only because only because sometimes you only want it announced in braille. And so forth.
Tab def script line trim selection left paren self comma gesture right paren colon.
Trim is Control T from Goldwave, and this is the one that I was looking for.
Tab number cannot just assign function objects to another comma, so a workaround for this problem dot. Tab self dot script line delete selection left paren gesture right paren.
I don't know if you're able to hear this, but what it did was this guy, the trim command, because it's doing the same thing as in delete command, it just called the delete script. So you can in fact call one script from another. Ideally, you don't want to do this unless if the scripts are the same, except if the commands are different. At least behave the same, but the commands are different. So that's one way of doing that. So one way of manipulating scripts and whatnot. So that's input and that's output and whatnot in terms of scripts. And before we end this session, let me give you a backstage tour of how input help works. At this point, are there any questions or comments on scripts, input and output?
Yes, Joseph, I have a question.
Yes.
Which is that when you are calling a script from another script,
Yeah.
don't you need to populate the gesture parameter? I always had trouble with this.
That. Yes. If you're calling one script from another, the second script will have its gesture assigned. For in this case, for Goldwave, is Control T is assigned to trim. And basically, you would call another gesture or another script from one script from another if the scripts behave the same. And I forgot to mention this, but I can mention now. If the script can be sent to the program safely. So you can populate the script. You can if you want, you'll be able to. I recommend that you populate the gesture, or at least provide the key value pair for that particular script.
Okay. Could you show us a demo of that either now or next time?
I can show you the demo right now. Let me open Goldwave.
Goldwave workspace.
What I'm going to do is I am going to open a new file.
New sound number of channels colon. Goldwave Untitled 1.
Now,
Input help control plus A. The control plus D. NVDA plus.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the corresponding app module file. And this is what I'm going to do.
List these items, new list. List 0 2 column. User of item A. Row in win. Adobe. Note. NV. Item. Goldwave wins. Item. Goldwave. Context C colon /.
In the trim command, what I'm going to do is I am going to, in the delete command, what I'm going to do, I'm going to import tones.
Import from control from an import script from NVDA. Import UI. Import tone blank.
Oh yeah, I did import tones.
Find dial. Select tab left script line delete selection left paren self comma gesture right paren colon tab gesture dot g.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a tone first.
Tab line feed.
Tones.beep 440 500 milliseconds.
Tab tones dot beep tab line feed.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell NVDA to UI that message, the parent str string convert to string gesture dot display name right parent. Now this is a method member function of member variable from gesture.
Tab gesture dot send left paren right paren.
And it'll send it on its way. Now I'm going to restart NVDA so that changes can take effect, unless of course if I type something wrong.
App modules win. Goldwave Untitled 1.
Yay. Yeah, at least it's working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some.
Strap length colon 01 colon 20 colon 00 point.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to select
Play
some.
selection. Select all. Play start colon 0.180. Finish colon 8 colon 03.000.
Press left bracket, right bracket to select, and I'm going to press this particular command to find out.
0.1808 colon 03.000 left paren 8 colon 02.820 right paren.
This is Control NVDA number row 3, and it announces selection, and it does object navigation on its own. We'll talk about that trick next time. Suppose if I press delete key to delete the selection, you'll hear this. Oh, nothing. Delete it. Oh, but maybe because I didn't assign a numpad delete to this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore this, Control Z.
0.1808 colon 03.0.
Now, this is the trim command. Remember that it called the delete selection script. This is what it'll do. If I press Control T.
Control plus T deleted.
Surprise, or rather say, I can tell that you're thinking to yourself, how can this be possible? This is by calling one script from another with a gesture parameter sent in. So whichever gesture that trim script has, which is Control T, when you call the delete selection script, and the gesture will also pass on to selection script, delete selection. So it can announce delete, and it can announce Control T, and play tones and whatnot. So that's one way of calling one script from another. This should be done if this behavior is the same, if the keys are different, and if it is safe to send the keys over to the program. Like what I'm doing is gesture.send and whatnot. So that's a practical example of calling one script from another. But usually though, if two or more scripts need to do the same thing, it is recommended that you use a method for this. Have a common method that scripts call. That method will, all of the method will do is do whatever the script asks it to do. This is also defined in the Goldwave app module, where there's a method or one or more methods that will fetch whatever object that scripts need, and it'll do it. So that is an example of
Confirmed by
that.
app module. C colon team talk 5 clap.
I hope this makes sense.
Thanks. Yes.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions before we move on to the last topic, which is how a backstage tour and how input help mode works?
I have a small question. At the beginning, you mentioned the UI.message function, but apparently it seems not to work in my case.
Enable voice activation tab control plus shift plus V. Enable push dash to dash talk tab control plus shift plus D checked me.
So you're saying the UI that message isn't working for you?
Exactly. So I have imported UI.
Yes, import
And,
UI.
in my script, I first generate a tone, and so when I do the key combination, I hear the tone, and then immediately after this command, I have the UI.message command with just a simple string, but it seems nothing is happening there.
Nothing's happening there. Okay. There could be various things happening there. It might be that you didn't assign a command for that script. There might be something going on with the naming of the value that goes in the gesture
Yeah, so
dictionary.
the script is executed because it has 2 lines of code. It's the tones.beep, and then the next line is UI.message, and so
Is the indentation
generates
correct?
the tone. Yes, indentation is correct. Yes.
So there could be several things here.
Yeah.
It might be that some kind of error was raised by the script. There could be things there. If you're using stable version of NVDA like 2016.2.1, you will not hear error tones. But it might be possible that something's going on there. So to end the session, let me give a backstage tour of input help mode. And if you want to follow along, if you have the NVIDIA core source code with you, if you want to follow along, open the source directory and open input core module.
Deadline handle input help left paren self comment gesture comment only log equals files right paren colon.
This is the, I believe it's input help, input core gesture. So let me actually read the source code to you. The source code that powers NVIDIA number row 1 command or input help mode. But before I do that though,
Team talk change lip tab enable push enable voice activation tab control plus shift plus a checked V. Team talk decode
now if I press NVDA number row 1
input help on
and let me press a key like 8
equals NVDA plus F12 if pressed once comment reports the current time dot if pressed twice comment reports the current date
And
NVDA plus D reports the title of the current application or foreground window
sometimes
shift plus NVDA plus 3 presents the used and total space of the static and removable drives on this compute shift plus NVDA plus 1 presents the average processor load and the load of each shift plus NVDA plus 6 announces the version of Windows you are using dot.
the last 3 commands, NVDA shift number row 3, NVDA shift 1, NVDA shift 6, resource monitor. NVIDIA Shift 6 announced Windows version. That was the one that I actually worked on. So if people want, I'll be happy to show you what it is at a later time. But for now, this is input help mode.
Backspace left window right window applications right control
But if I press NVIDIA number row 1 again,
and NVDA plus 1 input help off.
it turns off. Now, this is the source code. And this also falls into scripts and input output.
Blank. Tab deadline handle input help left paren self comment gesture comment only log equals files right paren colon.
Basically, what it'll do is it will read in the script and it'll read in the gesture and the script description for it. As long as it is not NVDA 1, it will just announce the script, the description for it. However, if it is, then it'll be done. So this is the source code for this.
Tab text list equals left bracket gesture dot display name right bracket. Tab script equals gesture dot script.
Gesture dot script. A gesture can have a script associated with this. This is a member variable.
Tab run script equals files.
Run script.
Tab log msg equals quote input help colon gesture percent test quote percent gesture dot log identifier.
Gesture colon KB colon whatever. That's an identifier. That's a key to the gestures map.
If script colon.
If script, then if there's a script found for this.
Script name equals script handler dot get script name left paren script right paren. Log msg plus equals quote comma bound to script percent s quote percent script name.
Bound to say that global commands that datetime, global commands that review underscore activate or whatever.
Script location equals script handler dot get script location left paren script right paren. If script location colon.
If there is, then that'll tell us which module where the script is defined.
Log msg plus equals quote on percent s quote percent script location.
Like global commands or whatever. So next.
If script name equals quote toggle input help quote colon. Run script equals true. Else colon.
Now, this is the crucial thing here. You heard.
If script name equals quote toggle input help quote colon. Run script equals true.
And then so that's how you actually exit out of input help mode. You check for a specific name of the specific script.
Else colon.
If not,
desc equals script dot line.
This is called a doc string. This is another component of scripts that you might want to include if it is an NVDA command, that is. We'll talk about doc strings later when we talk about objects and so forth.
If desc colon.
It is description that is a doc string for this.
Lang. Text list if desc code. Text list not append left paren desc right paren.
Yeah, so it can be shown on the log viewer.
Lang. Log dot info left paren log msg right paren. If only log colon. Return.
And done with this.
Import rail. Rail dot handler dot message left paren quote map slash d quote dot join left paren text list right paren.
Tabs. So this is how you do this.
Number punctuation must be spoken for the gesture name left paren the first chunk right paren so that punctuation keys are spoken dot.
And
Speech not speak text left paren text list left bracket 0 right bracket comma reason equals control types dot reason line message comma symbol level equals character processing dot symbol line all right paren.
this is why some of the app modules will import speech module for this very reason. The speak text, it takes in various parameters like what kind of reason this is for, like focus event or this, and symbol level if you want.
For text in text list left bracket 1 colon right bracket speech not speak message left paren text right paren.
And this is, you saw this before.
Lang. If run script colon.
And for this one, the NVDA one has been pressed again.
Script left paren gesture right paren.
This is, there it is. So this is one way of running this.
Lang. Load user.
And that is the source code or the backslash tour of input help mode. Just emulates a while loop. And as long as it's not the script that it's looking for, it'll just announce the description of the script if it can find it, the name of the keys on the keyboard, and eventually it will find that you have pressed NVDA number row 1 again, or toggle input help, and it'll be done. And that is a backslash tour of input help mode.
Team Talk 5 Classic V dot 5 point.
At this point, are there any questions or comments regarding this?
Yes. When you translate NVDA into another language, do the script names also change, or it's only the doc strings and so on?
Very good question. When you translate NVDA, the app modules into other languages, script names doesn't change, but doc strings do. And for that, we use script underscore name of the script dot underscore doc underscore equals, and then the getText call underscore left paren, the string itself, and the right paren.
Thanks.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
I am just interested if you can call another script, so script within a script. Can you also call a second app module within an app module? So for example, with some function that you call another app module inside already open module? Can you also do it?
Why not? You can actually, theoretically, yes, you can do that, but not recommended. The way to check if another app module of a choosing is running is looking at the SYS module. And to demonstrate, let me actually open this and demonstrate this.
NVDA Python.
The SYS module contains,
Left module tick left parent build dash in right parent breaker break.
and dir is the
Dire.
function that you will call to find out are there any attributes for anything.
Left bracket tick line display up line tick comma tick line dot line tick comma tick line accept up line tick comma tick line name line tick comma tick line package line tick comma tick line sd there line tick comma tick line sd din line tick comma tick line sd out line tick comma tick line clear line type line cache tick comma tick line current line frames tick comma tick line get frame tick comma tick line mercurial tick comma tick API line version tick comma tick hard tick comma tick built-in line module line edit tick prefix tick comma tick pyfreak warning tick comma tick fetch interval tick get file system encoding
Actually, it might not be SYS. It might be import app modules.
App modules breaker
APP in capital M D O D U L S.
Dire.
Therefore, this says
App left bracket tick tt2 hard tick comma tick line built-in line tick comma tick line dot line tick comma tick line file line tick comma tick line.
You might want to filter on no double underscore.
oh right. It
Edit plan left bracket tick tt2 hard tick comma tick classic tick right class line tt tick team top 5 classic tick power tick NVDA tick NVDA tick plug notepad tick comma goldway tick explorer
and so forth. So
team top
app module holds the modules that are loaded by app module handler subsystem.
Another way to do it is to double press tab after you press period, and NVDA will bring up an autocomplete menu, and you can look at the items.
Like this.
NVDA Python
App modules
app
dot.
modules context menu
I press tab twice.
app modules dot tt2 app modules dot line app modules dot line name line app modules dot line app modules dot explorer a app modules dot goldway app modules dot notepad app modules dot NVDA app modules dot PowerPoint
PowerPoint. I don't know. It might be because of control usage system, but
NVDA team top 5 classic
and that is one way to find out. And the way you would find out if an app module is running is there's a specific table that app module handler keeps. Records app modules that are loaded. Another way to check is doing this.
NVDA Python
Sys dot
Sys.
underscore modules underscore.
dot app module backslash left file quote left console app modules dot line trace app left parent most
Or it might not be
right
it might be SYS like just modules.
modules left trace tick code tick colon left module tick code tick from tick c colon backslash program
So you can do things like sys
F
quote app modules
app
dot
modules
outlook
out
in SYS dot
dot f
not modules.
modules files breaker
No, how about PowerPoint? App modules dot
module
power pnt in
in
SYS dot modules.
modules true breaker
Yes,
breaker.
it is.
Team top 5 classic slider 50 3 new
So that's one way to find out if an app module is running at that moment. But you don't want to call a script that's defined in one app module from another app module. Otherwise, what will the user say when they find out you press something from one app and then another app says, here's something else? So it is not recommended. Theoretically, yes, as you just saw, but not recommended.
Also, someone would have to have that app module installed
Right.
in order for your app module to work, so it's a bad idea.
And you need to know the name of the actual thing that you're looking at. So
Okay, thanks.
yeah,
Auto-completion is useful.
Yep.
it is.
Hey, Joseph, at the very end, I have a challenge problem for people.
All right, Derek has a challenge problem for people, and for me, this is Joseph Lee signing up. And this concludes session 2. Except one more thing where Derek has a challenge for you. Please stay around. Next, we might take a break for about 2 weeks. Next week because of NVDA Asia. But on July 16th, when we come back, we will look at objects. But in the meantime, as you take 2 weeks off, I'd like to recommend that you experiment with scripts, gestures, scripts, input, output, so you can find out how to do commands and whatnot. Because after that, we will actually use those scripts to manipulate objects. We'll find out some things about certain controls in apps. Because next session, session 3, is all about objects and object hierarchy and object traverse and object navigation and traversal. And you can contact me at Twitter at Josely. The email address is joseph.lee22590@gmail.com, and you can find me on various NVDA mailing lists. And this is Joseph Lee signing off. And for this session, the last thing, Derek, what is your challenge question?
Okay, so this should test the skills you learned today. I have not actually solved this problem, so I don't have an answer built up yet, but I could probably write one. I probably will, just to validate other people's solutions. But basically, there's a method called UI.browsableMessage. And you can, I don't remember the exact parameters, but you can get a string, which is a message, and it can either take HTML or no HTML, and you can give it a title. And it'll show you that message in browse mode. That's how the new report formatting command is powered by. If you can figure out how to use it, and you can figure out where the developer info comes from, figure out, given an object that's the navigator object, figure out how to show the developer info in browse mode.